Stamping is my favorite technique for adding inexpensive touches with tons of flair. Clear stamps cling to an acrylic base, require very little space for storage, and most importantly are easy to position because you can see through the block to the stamping surface. To create the flower on this colorful address book, I used flower petal stamps from Technique Tuesday and an acrylic block. Begin by inking the surface of the stamp with a black VersaFine ink pad. When you know you have good coverage on the surface of the stamp, place it over your paper and then just press it straight down, being careful not to rock or wiggle it. Use your fingertips or the base of your hand to press into the stamp, and the amount of pressure that you need to apply depends on how large your stamp is and also how much detail it has. When you're finished stamping, just pull it straight up, and then you can cut all of your flower petals out, and when they're cut out they look something like this. Next, apply them to the front of your book, and then you can carry this theme throughout your book by stamping the same images on the alphabetical tabbed listings.
Michelle, I just love that project. It's one of my favorites. In stamping, you don't always have to use a stamp to create a great stamped image. In this card that we're going to do today, we're going to make an adorable ribbon by using a pencil instead of a stamp. What we did was take our brown StazOn ink, take a pencil that's a new pencil and has a great eraser, and we're just going to move to a plain white ribbon and make a stamp into that ribbon. As we repeat these across, we don't need to try to make it just exactly matching all the time because we want it to do that handcrafted image. To make the card that we've shown, we've taken a brown base card, cut 5.5 by 4 1/4. We've added a green strip that's 2 inches and put those across. I went ahead and stamped this whole ribbon ahead so that we wouldn't take all that time, and you'll bring that and wrap it around and tie it on the side. I'm going to trade it out so that we won't have to tie a ribbon forever. Then we'll make the inside. The inside of our card is a cream piece cut to 4 by 5, just a little smaller. Then we took a 1/2 inch brown strip, layered it with our green, the same that we had in the front, to make the interior and exterior of our card complement each other. To make our dots, we just added, just like we'd done before, across the edge, and we've created an oh so easy card in just a few minutes. I challenge you to walk through your house with a creative eye and see what you can find that would make a great stamp. Some examples that you might use would be a kitchen sponge. Pressed down would be a great background stamp. Or if you took a cookie cutter, that shape makes a great stamp. You can also go through your children's toys and look and see what shapes they have. Like a block would make a great square stamp. If you find an item that you just love and you make a great project with it, let Michelle and I know. You can contact us at the scrapbookingstudio.blogspot.com and send us your ideas. Michelle and I are always looking for something new and creative.
Sometimes it's fun to get a little messy with your paper crafting, and I think that's what the vintage look is all about. Combining a variety of inks, paints, and stamps together for an imperfect work of art. Let's begin by cutting a cream cardstock tag 3 by 6 inches. Next, we'll use this Tattered Angels Glimmer Mist, and we're going to use key lime pie to spray a concentration of ink in 2 opposite corners. Now notice that the whole tag is going to end up being green, but those 2 corners look a lot more opaque. And I wanted to mention also that these Tattered Angels inks, a lot of times the good stuff all settles in the bottom of the bottle, so be sure to give it a really good shake. Next, we're going to use the heat gun to dry this off. We'll use the tweezer beads to hold it down and then just slowly move the gun across the surface of your tag, being sure to hold it about 2 inches from the surface so that you don't scorch your paper. And we don't need to get this completely dry, we just need to be sure that the puddles are all dry. Okay, then we'll apply some paint. We're using this Making Memories paint in an avocado and seafoam color. And the great thing about this paint is it has less water content, so it won't buckle your paper like a normal acrylic paint. We'll use a clear stamp on our acrylic block and pick up some of that paint and then just stipple it on the surface of your stamp. We want to use quite a bit of it because we're going to make it to where it provides a texture on the surface of the stamp. And then place it on the left side of the tag, just a little bit offset, stamping off the edge, press down and pull straight up. We're going to repeat this with a leafy flourish stamp. Just apply paint to your foam brush and once again get plenty of it on the surface of your stamp. And we'll apply this to the top of our tag and then we're going to heat it just a little bit to dry some of the wetter areas of that paint. So we realize that not everybody has a heat gun at home and you can use a blow dryer or you can just set your tag aside until it's dry. We aren't really heat setting the ink here, we're just trying to speed the drying process. Next, let's use a VersaFine Vintage Sepia ink pad and a manuscript stamp. And in this case we're using a wood mount stamp. And one of the benefits of a wood mount stamp is that you get clean, crisp details because there's a layer of foam between the rubber and the wood. One of the negatives of a wood mount stamp is that it takes a lot more space to store. Tap your ink pad onto the surface of your stamp and then we're going to just place this a little bit on the diagonal and then re-ink. Be sure to re-ink in between applications so that all of your words have an even color to them. And then we're going to add the final touch, and we've created a really cool looking stamp that's kind of messy but very shabby.
In this segment, we're going to make a simple but elegant card by using embossing powder and the Versamark Watermark ink pad. That's kind of hard to say, but it's a great product. We'll begin by cutting our blue cardstock to our standard size. That's the 5.5 by 4 1/4. Then we want to take just a strip of the brown cardstock, cut it the width of the card and 3/4 inch wide, and we're going to adhere that right across the center of the card. After we do that, we'll choose a border stamp, and the border stamp is going to be stamped on either side of our brown card. We're going to use the Versamark Watermark pad. We'll press in and get quite a bit of this ink onto our border stamp. We'll take that stamp, bring it right to the brown line, press in, making sure we get lots of that ink onto the card. Why we use the watermark stamp is for 2 reasons. First, it creates a slightly darker shade right on the cardstock. It makes it almost look like it's wet. And you can use this for chalkings and some other things that we're not going to do today. We might do in a later show. But for today, we're going to use the second part of the pad, and that's that it has a sticky quality. So when we put it on our cardstock, it's going to be slightly sticky until it gets dry. Then we will cover it with embossing powder. We just pour that right across the card. We can see that this is a ink that stays wet a long time because we were able to get all that embossing powder on. The embossing powder is just fine granules that when they're heated give us a wet look and then a raised look. So it gives you an elegant finish to your card. We're going to dry. As we take the heat gun across the card, we want to hold it steady. I don't know if the camera can show this, but as we move across the card, you can actually see those granules turn darker, and you can see how it creates the raised image as we move across. We're not going to go ahead and stamp the other side of our card, but we're going to switch to one that already has the two stamped images, and as you can see, I've pulled off the brown strip of cardstock, and we're going to replace that with ribbon. We have a brown 1-inch wide ribbon with a little turquoise ribbon layered on top. We added that turquoise just to give this card just a little bit of pop. We'll tuck those ribbons behind our card, and now we have a finished card done in a snap, simple and elegant, lots of detail.